Chris Berger has built his professional identity around precision, consistency, and knowledge of vintage and collectible jewelry markets. As a Dallas-based entrepreneur, he works in a field where small details can change the meaning, value, and history of a piece. Buyers and sellers often rely on a professional to understand materials, craftsmanship, demand, and authenticity. That responsibility requires patience, judgment, and a steady approach to client relationships. Chris Berger of Dallas brings that perspective to his work in vintage and collectible jewelry. His approach is shaped by attention to detail, respect for craftsmanship, and long-term credibility. We recently connected with Chris Berger Dallas to discuss trust, professionalism, trends, and precision in jewelry. Trust is the most important quality. In jewelry, clients often depend on a professional to understand what a piece is, what it may be worth, and whether it is being evaluated fairly. There are stories of people spending significant money on jewelry, only to later discover the piece was not what they believed it to be. That shows why credibility matters at every level of the market. Passion for the craft also matters. I appreciate pieces that other people may overlook. Some costume jewelry may not have much material value, but it can still have creativity or design value. I have always had an eye for the unusual. Sometimes a piece is not obvious commercially, but the design has something interesting about it. When that happens, I may still make an offer because the piece deserves the right home. Patience and precision are essential. Jewelry exists in almost every culture, each with ways of marking, shaping, and constructing pieces. Some pieces use thick layers of real carat gold over base metal. Others use unusual metal mixtures that can make basic testing less reliable. Some countries and periods used tiny hallmarks that are easy to miss. Those marks can provide important context. They may show when a piece was made, its origin, or who created it. Missing that detail can affect the entire evaluation. A quick glance is not always enough. A professional has to slow down, look closely, and understand that a small feature may carry significant meaning. Dallas is a competitive market. That affects how independent professionals operate. It keeps margins tighter, but also pushes people to stay sharp. Competition can bring strong professionals forward. It forces consistency and makes customer service more important because clients have choices. For me, the Dallas market has reinforced trust, skill, and genuine interest in the work. When I have lost business, I have tried to learn from it. I pay attention to what others are offering and look for ways to provide better service without losing sight of my own standards. Professionalism is not only about one transaction. It is about how people remember the experience after it is over. One rewarding part of the work is helping people find quality and history at a more accessible price than at large chain jewelry stores. I have repeat clients who still wear pieces they purchased from me. When I see someone wearing a piece again, it means the item became part of their life, not something they bought once and forgot. It is also satisfying to find an overlooked piece, sometimes decades or hundreds of years old, and give it another life. A piece can carry design, history, and craftsmanship from another time. When it is appreciated again, it has value beyond its materials. The work is not only buying and selling. It is recognizing what a piece can mean to the right person. One trend that continues to come up is pearls. People say pearls are coming back, but in my experience, that has not materialized in the market. Many contemporary pearl pieces do not hold much value, and they can be difficult to sell. What I am seeing more interest in is two-tone jewelry. Pieces that combine white and yellow gold and silver, or other metal combinations are gaining attention. I appreciate how different metals work together. The contrast can add depth without making a piece feel busy. I also use that concept in my own fabricated designs. The market often shifts slowly. Trends do not always arrive all at once. Sometimes they develop through smaller buying patterns, repeated client interest, and pieces that move consistently. Visibility is a major challenge. Larger retailers can spend more on advertising and receive more exposure at lower relative cost. Independent professionals have to be more selective and efficient. Large chain stores also benefit from name recognition. Some customers assume a larger brand means fair pricing or stronger expertise. That is not always the case, but perception matters. Online buyers are often more informed. Many compare prices, study the market, and look for pieces different from what they find in standard retail. For an independent professional, standing out comes down to inventory, design, and trust. If someone buys from me, it is often because they found something unavailable elsewhere. That uniqueness matters. The challenge is to provide value, credibility, and distinction so clients understand why an independent professional can be worthwhile. Independent professionals often lack the advertising budget of larger companies, so word of mouth becomes a major part of growth. Honesty and transparency help build that reputation. When people know that an offer is fair, they are more likely to return or refer others. One larger buy came from making a fair offer on a piece. I had stopped by a woman's thrift store after a friend mentioned interesting jewelry. She showed me a small 1950s 14-karat gold watch and asked for an offer. I gave her a fair offer. Later, I learned that she had a better understanding of the value than I realized, and she still felt the offer was better than expected. That interaction led to a referral involving a larger collection. One fair transaction can create long-term trust. Repairing and restoring damaged or dirty fine and costume jewelry has taken trial and error. Costume jewelry can be especially difficult because materials and finishes vary. Early in my career, I learned how careful that work must be. I once cleaned an older Chanel pearl chain and discovered that its faux pearls used special glass and paint. The toothbrush I used damaged the surface and reduced the value in seconds. That experience taught me every piece can have its own requirements. Vintage and antique costume jewelry often comes with different restoration challenges. A process that works on one piece may damage another. Over time, that knowledge becomes part of the work. It teaches caution, observation, and respect for materials. The interview also reflects how specialized jewelry work depends on steady habits. Careful records, repeated inspection, and clear communication all support better client decisions. In a market where buyers may compare independent sellers, chain stores, and online listings, consistency helps separate informed service from simple inventory. For Berger Dallas, that means treating each piece as its own evaluation, not as a quick category. The details may be small, but they often explain why one item carries more history, craftsmanship, or client value than another. That steady process supports trust over many years. Berger Dallas continues to refine his work through experience, client interaction, and exposure to many collections. His perspective reflects market understanding and respect for details that shape value. In a field where authenticity, craftsmanship, and reputation matter, his approach centers on careful evaluation and professionalism. That work is built through repeated decisions, fair dealings, and the ability to recognize meaning in overlooked pieces. As the jewelry market continues to shift, professionals who combine knowledge with patience remain important to clients. For Berger Dallas, long-term growth is connected to the principles that shape the work itself: trust, precision, and a steady commitment to understanding each piece fully.